My name is Ethan. I'm 27 years old. I'm just a typical office worker. I use a computer all day at work, but right now I can't see the screen clearly. Every time I try to take a deep breath with my eyes closed, they just won't open. I'm feeling dizzy. I've been struggling to get through my work, relying on caffeine from coffee to push through the day. Finally, it's the end of the workday. As everyone else is calling it a day, I lean both elbows on my desk, rest my forehead on them, and close my eyes, thinking, finally, time to go home. Hey, are you okay? You've been looking a bit off lately, like you're not feeling well. My boss, Robert, talks to me with a concerned voice from behind. No, I'm just sleep deprived, sorry. I'll be more careful. Seeing Robert look worried, I decide to tell him the truth. I thought he would scold me for staying up late, but instead he seemed worried about my lack of sleep. Is something going on? Insomnia is pretty serious, he says, expressing his concern. I really wanted to reassure him, but it's true that I'm struggling. While it's none of Robert's business, I decide to tell him about the cause of my insomnia. A month ago, a new neighbor moved into the room next to mine. My apartment is a rundown corner unit on the first floor, and the room next to mine had been vacant for a while. A student-looking guy moved in during the moving season, and he's been making noise every night, bringing friends over. He seems to be a night owl, making noise, shouting, and occasionally causing the wall to shake. Additionally, it seems someone new moved into the room above mine as well, who runs the washing machine at night and stomps around loudly. I used to hear the sounds of the neighbors' doors opening and closing, but I didn't realize how thin the walls were. Due to these disturbances, I've been waking up several times during the night and suffering from sleep deprivation. I don't want to have issues with my neighbors, but it's been unbearable. So I reported the situation to the landlord. Despite my report, the situation didn't improve. I talked to the landlord again, but he just said that he'd left a note for them and didn't seem like he could do anything more. I guess I have to put up with it as the rent is cheap, but it's really tough. I told Robert after hearing all this. He said, I see. That's quite a predicament. Lack of sleep can ruin your health. I understand your situation now. But don't hesitate to take a day off if you're not feeling well, okay? I felt grateful for his kindness and hoped that things would be better. However, even after another 2 weeks, the noise problem continued. I used to live in a shared house near my university when I was a student, so I thought I had a certain level of tolerance for noise. But this noise is too much for me. At the shared house, we had strict rules, and if someone broke them, they would be warned and eventually kicked out by the owner if they didn't change their behavior. As it's a convenient location for commuting and the rent is low rent, I chose this rundown apartment. But now I think the shared house was a much better choice. I don't want to underperform at work, so another day passed with me fighting sleep deprivation with the help of caffeine. As Robert was passing by, he talked to me. You still look pale. Don't push yourself too hard. I want to talk to you later, okay? And patted my shoulder. At the end of the day, Robert came to me and asked, can we talk in the meeting room? I thought I was going to be reprimanded for looking so rundown, but the words that came out of Robert's mouth took me by surprise. Ethan, you must be having a hard time. Why don't you come stay at my place? From the look on his face, it seemed like he wasn't joking. Apparently, he had been worried about me and had discussed it with his wife. It turned out that his wife also was concerned for my health, suggesting that I should stay at their place to prevent me from collapsing. You're still living in that apartment you rented when you got your first paycheck, aren't you? You should be able to afford a better place by now. Have you considered moving? But you probably can't hold up until you find a new apartment, right? For the time being, you should rest up at our house, okay? I didn't expect such concern and tried to politely decline, feeling a bit guilty. But Mr. Robert insisted humorously, promising delicious home-cooked meals if I decided to stay. I didn't give an answer at that time, deciding to think about it more. When I got home, my rundown apartment was not too bad as long as there was no noise. However, the incessant noisy disturbances made me decide to move out. I felt the urgent need for a peaceful place to rest. I was on the brink of collapsing, but my family lives out of state, and I had no friends in the vicinity to rely on. Although I felt guilty for inconveniencing Mr. and Mrs. Robert, I decided to accept their generous offer and stay with them until I found a new place. I had a moment of hesitation about living in the same house as my boss, but then again, it was not that much different from living in a shared house. I felt like I was imposing, but I decided to take them up on their offer. The next day, I gave Mr. Robert my answer and immediately started looking for a new place. It was decided that I would start staying at Robert's house from the following Sunday, and then the day has come when I arrive at Mr. Robert's house. Mrs. Robert welcomed me with a warm smile. I expressed my gratitude for their hospitality, to which she responded, "Don't be so nervous," as they helped me with my luggage and showed me to the room. "There's some time before dinner. Why not relax a little?" she suggested, and the three of us had a light conversation. "It's been a while since we saw you, John. You've really matured," Mrs. Robert commented. Actually, it was not my first time visiting their home. Back then, you used to bring your young colleagues over to our house for drinks. We don't see much of that these days, do we? I remember the times when I was a new recruit and Mr. Robert used to invite me over. He was always considerate of his subordinates and communicated with them a lot at his home. When drinking with bosses, there is often the exhaustion of having to listen to their heroic stories or their preaching about work. But Mr. Robert was different. Even when he talked about work, he was never imposing. He always listened carefully, which made him well loved by the younger staff. As we reminisced, Mr. Robert suddenly turned serious, saying, "Oh, I almost forgot. I have to tell you something important." He turned to me, a serious expression on his face. "We have a daughter living with us, John. I'm sure you understand, but don't try anything, all right?" His tone changed drastically as he stared intently at me. Mrs. Robert couldn't help but laugh at his stern demeanor. "I don't think John would do such a thing, but our daughter is quite pretty, you know," Mr. Robert said, his stern face softening slightly into a smirk. His wife chuckled. "You're still overly protective, as always." I remembered their daughter from her student days, and indeed she was a beautiful girl even then. Their daughter Amy had just graduated from college this spring and started working as hotel staff at the front desk. I met Amy at dinner time. We were having dinner without her as she was coming home late. When we heard her voice from the entrance, "I'm home," I greeted her at the dining table, apologizing for starting dinner without her. But when I looked up and got a proper look at her, I was momentarily stunned. Amy had grown up into a striking beauty. "No problem at all. Take your time," she said. Amy smiled and said something that had everyone at the table nodding in agreement. "She's so beautiful. It's no wonder the boss is so protective of her," we all joked. Amy then went to her room to drop off her bags, then took the seat next to me. At that point, the boss paused. "Hey, hold on a sec," he said, appearing flustered. The boss turned to Amy, who was about to start eating, and said, "You can't sit next to him, Amy. Come sit over here. She's a girl who's not yet married after all." "We can't let her sit next to a guy so casually," he joked. Yet, there was a serious look in his eyes. We all ended up laughing at our overly protective boss. Before going to bed, I took a bath. "Ethan, can you drink herbal tea?" When I got out of the bath, the boss's wife asked me. So, when I replied that I was able to, she said, "That's great." Herbal tea helped you sleep, and made some for me. We were all sitting comfortably in the living room, drinking herbal tea, when suddenly the boss said, "Ethan, you're good at English, right?" When I nodded, he turned to Amy and said, "Amy, we've got a teacher right here." I saw Amy's eyes light up. When I asked why, she explained that she uses English a lot in her work at the hotel's front desk. The hotel is Japanese-oriented, so a lot of foreign tourists visit there. She had to pass an English test to get hired, but apparently, actual practice is quite difficult, and she's a bit insecure about phrasing and such. I actually spent 3 years abroad in high school. I followed my father on his overseas assignment and lived there. Even now, I can still speak English because I occasionally have to deal with people from English-speaking countries at work. Today, I just want you to rest. I don't want to push you. But if you're feeling better, could you take a look at my daughter's English? The boss asked me this, and Amy also requested it. Of course, I agreed. Thanks to the boss and his family's kindness, I was able to sleep well that night, and I recovered a few days later. Going to work with the boss every morning was a strange feeling, but I got to hear all sorts of work stories from him, and it made me feel like a new employee again. I also felt happy that we could now talk as equals. His wife, who is a housewife, was really good to me. The food was delicious, and she even did my laundry. I was so grateful I didn't know what to say. The boss and I, who both have weekends off, started having a drink together on Saturday nights. He used to drink every night, but now he's being health conscious and only allows himself to drink on Saturday nights. We enjoyed the evening with food prepared by the boss. I was surprised that he could cook, and we had a great time talking over drinks. As I listened to the boss talk and nodded, I suddenly became emotional. He talks about stories about his daughter with a kind tone, his wish for happiness for his family, and his advice to me to walk a similar path in life. Watching him, I couldn't help but think of my own father. My father passed away before I became an adult, just after we returned from the 3-year overseas assignment. I remembered the time shortly before he died when he told me, "Ethan, when you become an adult, I want to share a drink with you." Maybe it was also because the boss's gentle way of speaking was so much like my father's. If my father were alive now, would he be like this? Thinking that, tears streamed down my face. "Hey, what's wrong?" Turning to my side, I found myself crying, no doubt surprising my boss. "No, I'm good. Just drunk a little too much." I shrugged it off with a sheepish response, but couldn't help the tears from spilling out even as I tried to hold them back. "No, I apologize. I was just thinking of my dad," I admitted candidly. Then I talked about the promise I couldn't keep with my father. "Is that so?" There were tears in my boss's eyes as he said, "Your father would be proud if he saw you now, Ethan. You've grown into a hard-working, good guy." He said that, patting my shoulder reassuringly. The words just made me cry even more. His tone was just like my father's. It felt like my dad was talking to me. That night became a special one for me. As we promised, I used the spare time in the evening to tutor Amy. Her days off changed due to her shift schedule and her being a new employee. But when she comes home early, we are able to find common time. She asks me about the conversations she struggles with, what she couldn't understand on that day. I answer her questions, and she actively asks me for more. I advise her on how native speakers would say it, the polite way of phrasing things. Amy diligently takes notes, practices pronunciation with me. In response to enthusiasm, I do role-playing exercises with her repeatedly to make her more practical in conversation and actions. Initially, I was nervous around Amy, but recently we've been able to chat casually. We've started trying to make these small talks in English, making it a bit of a game, and we've become somewhat friendly. Before I knew it, it's almost a month since I moved into my boss's place. Although I've been constantly looking for a new place, the good ones seem to fill up before I can even go see them. Maybe it's the season. I've been looking around without sticking to a single real estate agency, but whether it's bad luck or my searching method, I start to feel anxious. I can't keep relying on my boss indefinitely. I thought at that time, speaking of which, Ethan, no, it's okay. Yeah, my boss nervously started to speak. Ethan, you haven't moved out of your old apartment yet, have you? I was surprised, feeling as if he read my mind. I uttered a no, it's fine. You can stay as long as you like. But Ethan, you've gotten comfortable here, haven't you? He said, grinning knowingly. But it was true. Even though it was at odds with my anxious feelings, I'm sorry. Honestly, I'm very comfortable here, I said, and my boss laughed heartily. Although I had a lot of trouble finding a place, I ended up finding one that was far better than what I originally aimed for. Thankfully, it was okay to move in as soon as possible. Once I secured my new place, I notified the landlord of my current apartment about my departure. Because the move was so sudden, I ended up having to pay for 2 places for a month. But I couldn't continue to rely on my boss for another month, accepting it as unavoidable. I quickly started to prepare for the move. Moreover, my boss said he would help move things if I didn't have too much luggage. I ended up relying on him until the day of the move. On the day I left my boss's house, I made sure to thank his wife sincerely. I had stayed at their place for about a month, being cared for in every way. In gratitude, I prepared something to serve as a sort of rent payment, but both the boss and his wife refused, saying it wasn't necessary. "You tutored our daughter, so we're even," they said. After some time passed living in my new apartment, while I enjoyed the comfortable life, I also felt nostalgic for the time spent at my boss's place. I had been thinking of visiting them again. "Excuse me, boss. I'd really like to express my gratitude properly. May I come over next Saturday?" I asked nervously. He replied, "No need for thanks, but we can drink together again. My daughter is off next Saturday, so it's perfect timing." Although he seemed happy, I was a bit nervous. On Saturday evening, as I rang the doorbell at the boss's house, he greeted me cheerfully. "Tonight, my wife and Amy prepared a feast because they knew you were coming. Come on in." Both his wife and Amy greeted me with smiles. "First things first, Ethan, let's have a beer and toast." As my boss went to pour the beer, I stopped him. "Wait, boss. I have something to say before that." In my words, his wife and Amy moved closer. Seeing this, the boss looked surprised, but his wife settled him down, saying, "Just let him speak." Then I stepped back and spoke out. "Boss, I have been dating your daughter, and I wanted to formally let you know." With that, I bowed deeply. When I lifted my face, the boss seemed frozen, deep in thought. After a while, he finally asked, "What do you mean by that?" Then Amy came next to me and said to her father, "I fell in love with him." His wife added, "Ethan is a wonderful person, isn't he?" She and Amy giggled. Seeing this, the boss was flustered. "You knew about this?" His wife and Amy exchanged glances and started laughing. "I didn't know anything about this, Ethan. What is this all about?" The boss tried to regain some fatherly dignity, but his wife chuckled. "Aren't you actually pleased?" Exposed by his wife, the boss was flustered and said, "Don't say things like that." She continued, "You said it would be nice to have a son like Ethan." Drinking alone after he left. That was when my wife blurted it out, and I was taken aback, saying, "Don't mention that." "I can't help it. If it's Ethan—" "No, seriously, you guys." I grumbled, our team leader with a mix of joy and disbelief. I handed him the gift I bought. There was his favorite brand of liquor inside. Seeing this, he chuckled, "Nice choice. All right, you're forgiven. Let's have a celebratory drink to your relationship with my daughter, Amy." He had given us his blessing. We shared drinks and stories. "Oh, I might be a bit tipsy," he admitted, a perpetual smile on his face. From the way he was talking, it seemed he was quite drunk. "Listen, Ethan, if you don't make my daughter happy, you won't get off easily. But I'm glad the first guy she brought home is you, Ethan. I'm glad it wasn't some weirdo. Please take good care of my daughter." It felt as if I was announcing our marriage, even though I had only intended to announce our relationship. But it did become reality. 3 years since then, the team lead is now my father-in-law. Rather, he has become more a father to me. I used to say, "I wish I had a son like Ethan," and now it's really happened. Ethan, let's keep this going. It's our usual Saturday now. We enjoy drinks together with Amy and my mother-in-law. How was that? Subscribing to the channel gives us encouragement to produce more. See you in the next video.